I speak here from the scene of a terrorist attack in northwest London. Our counter-terrorism policing teams have already formally declared this incident as a terrorist attack. It's another horrendous act of violence directed against our Jewish communities, which follows a series of arson attacks in recent weeks. It will rightly shock and anger people across London and in the immediate communities and across the country. My first thoughts are with the two British Jews who were attacked whilst going about their daily lives, which they should be able to do freely and safely in their own local community. I also want to pay tribute to my officers who were on the scene within a few minutes and whose actions undoubtedly prevented further injury and saved lives. Indeed, before coming here today, I met with them. They are nothing short of extraordinary. They confronted a man they believed to be a terrorist who refused to show his hands, who was violent and who continued to pose a clear threat. These were not armed officers, and they feared that he was carrying an explosive device. Using only their training, their courage and their tasers, they managed to detain him whilst they continued to try and attack and stab them. They will tell you they were simply doing their jobs, but without their bravery, I dread to think what the outcome would have been. I also want to recognise the extraordinary voluntary first responders from the community, including the Shomri. And so it was at about 11:16 this morning they responded to reports of people being stabbed in Highfield Road in northwest London. They attended along with the local ambulance service. Two men, one in his 70s and one in their 30s, were treated at the scene for stab wounds, and they are now taken to hospital. The 45-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder and remains in custody following a check-up at the local hospital. He has a history of serious violence and mental health issues, and that investigation continues. Let me say a few words about what this was. Let me be clear. This is an attack on one community. An attack on one community is an attack on all London's communities. This was an attack on Londoners. It is an attack on British Jews. Too many Jewish people in this country feel they have to make choices that no other Briton ever has to make. They have to make choices about how they dress, where they go, or how visibly they live their lives. That's completely unacceptable and has gone on for far too long. We also need to be honest about the nature of the threat. Anti-Semitism is fuelled by hateful and extremist ideologies. It comes from hostile states, the extreme right and the extreme left. These are terrorist and hateful belief systems, but they're all rooted in racism. They're given space to operate when civic debate is weak, when hatred is excused, and when people are unwilling to challenge it directly. I also believe now is the time to ask some difficult questions. Why don't we see more condemnation of the attacks we've seen in recent weeks? Where are all the voices against hate? And where is the solidarity with fellow Londoners who are being targeted simply for who they are? Legitimate debate about international affairs should never be allowed to legitimise anti-Semitism or violence against British Jews here on the streets of London. When that line is blurred, attacks become more likely. Let me be clear, we've seen a rise in racist and anti-Semitic hate crime, and whilst I can't comment on live investigations, we know that some individuals are being encouraged, persuaded or paid to commit acts of violence on behalf of foreign organisations and hostile states. If you act out of hatred, racism or anti-Semitism, we will come after you and you will face the consequences. I want to speak directly about the impact on communities. In response, over recent weeks, we've stepped up our activity across the capital. Last week saw the most intensive set of community protection operations we've ever run. In recent weeks, we've deployed thousands of additional officer shifts to protect Londoners, alongside intensified investigations that already led to the arrest of 28 people for hate crimes, particularly those targeting the Jewish community, several of which have already been charged. My teams are, of course, planning such a heightened protective stance addressing this to run into the long term. And let me finish by saying this. London is an inclusive and diverse city, and the hours, the days that followed the attacks in Golders Green 3 weeks ago we saw communities come together in solidarity to reject hatred and violence. These are neighbours, their friends, their colleagues. Their solidarity matters. That solidarity should be continued, and we should all support it. Thank you.
Commissioner, have you failed to keep the Jewish community safe, Commissioner?
Commissioner, the Jewish community has heard statements from you before.
They're calling for you to resign, Commissioner. Have you failed?
From the politicians before. Do you think that visibly Jewish people are safe on the streets of London?
This is an awful attack today. It is completely understandable why Jewish Londoners feel afraid. That's why we're putting so much extra policing into these events, and we're going to be looking at what more we can do over the forthcoming weeks.
You've lost
what do you say to these people who are saying resign and shame on you?
I've had so many thanks from Jewish communities over the last few weeks for all the extra policing that's done. People recognise that officers are going above and beyond to protect them, such as the officers today who put their lives on the line taking on somebody they believe was carrying an explosive device.
Are Jewish people safe on the streets of London?
Events like this, I can never give an absolute assurance. We're doing everything we can do to protect people in difficult times, and I'm calling on others to stand out and challenge the anti-Semitic licensing which is going on site today. I'll take one other question.
Commissioner, you must hear the anger here in this crowd today. Have you failed the Jewish community? They don't have faith in you.
Jewish communities are understandably angry. There's been too many attacks. The response of our officers has been extraordinary. We're doing everything we can do with the resources available, and I'll be discussing with government in the forthcoming weeks what more they can do to help us and to help the community.